everyone, I'm Caroline Downey. The heartbreaking final words of Noelia Castillo Ramos were, "I just cannot go on anymore. I want to go now in peace and stop suffering."
Me llamo Noelia Castillo Ramos. Tengo 25 años. Y bueno, me quedan 4 días.
This young Spanish woman, 25 years old to be exact, said in this interview that she endured 3 separate episodes of sexual abuse. One allegedly perpetrated by an ex-partner, another in a nightclub where she said 2 men raped her, and a third in a bar involving 3 young men. She said she never reported any of them. After the second episode, she attempted to kill herself by jumping from a 5th floor window. She survived, but it resulted in a serious spinal injury and permanent paralysis from the waist down, chronic pain, and unrelenting trauma. She was diagnosed with chronic depressive symptoms and an adjustment disorder with anxiety and depression. Her agony and anguish snowballed and snowballed to the point where she preferred to be done with this world rather than try to find peace again in it. Just a few days ago, Noelia received a lethal injection from the Spanish medical system under a 2021 law, despite her parents' fierce legal battle to stop it, which went all the way down to last-minute pleading at her hospital bed. This isn't just a right-to-die story, which we often see in Canada that has ghoulishly normalized doctor-assisted suicide. This is about how a vulnerable young woman was failed by the very systems meant to protect her, then steered towards state-sanctioned death as the endpoint, representing yet another systemic failure. What struck me about her story was the glaring asymmetry. There were endless legal resources to help her fulfill her wish for euthanasia. The state was more than happy to accommodate her desperate request to have her life snuffed out. But what happened to her abusers? Have they been arrested, tried, and punished? I haven't read that there's been any justice of any kind. And what made it possible for Noelia to choose death was Spain's euthanasia law, which covers serious chronic and disabling conditions, including psychological distress. Noelia was one of the youngest candidates ever under this law. There's no question that she had unbearable pain. Mentally, of course, and then she's also dealing with the fact that she will never have mobility in half of her body and limbs ever again. That's very limiting for the rest of her life. She's only a young girl about my age. But the question is, what should have been done about this? Her father claimed she wasn't fully capable of making this decision, as her mental health had been severely disturbed, and he was sympathetic to her struggle, but he was trying to advocate for her human soul, which the state evidently could not see. He believed that she could find real care and real healing. His attempts to stop the procedure caused a 601-day legal delay, almost 2 years, despite the Spanish health authorities signing off on her assisted dying in 2024. But listen to what the courts argued during this process. Absolutely nuts.
Esto refiero palabras de su madre. Cuando ganamos las primeras cautelares, lo que la dicen es, no puedes hacer eso porque ya teníamos todos tus órganos comprometidos. Entonces, lo que nosotros...
¿Quién le dice eso a su madre?
Se lo dicen desde el hospital.
The court said they couldn't stop the euthanasia because she had already committed her organs for donation. What? They're saying, oh, sorry, we've already claimed your kidney and your heart for other purposes, so unfortunately, we're gonna have to kill you now. This is bananas. The dad's efforts were ultimately thwarted by the Supreme Court of Spain, which rejected his appeal in February 2026, just a couple months ago. And then, as a last-ditch effort, the case traveled to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, France, which also rejected the father's final petition to stop the state from killing his daughter. Despite all that family opposition, which you think would make the state question the morality of what they were doing, the euthanasia was scheduled and proceeded. My heart breaks for this father, who tried everything he could to save her. Many say that losing your child is one of the most excruciating experiences you can have, and no doubt he is feeling that. But of course, the left has argued that family members like hers are a pain in the butt an obstacle to her exercising her autonomy as an individual. That's why we have family, actually, to root for our human dignity and intrinsic value, even when we can't see it in ourselves, and when the government is trying to tell us that it doesn't exist. But Big Brother finds supportive family members like Noelia as threatening for this very reason. A person who is confident and optimistic about their future, no matter the hardship that they've faced because of family, partially, that's very difficult for the government to prey upon and turn into a vehicle for consolidating power. You are a less gullible, vulnerable voter. In Canada and much of Europe, healthcare is nationalized, so governments are all too eager to send a person to medical death row instead of treating them, because it's a lot less expensive. These dystopian countries have reduced human lives down to whether they are a net burden or a net contribution to the state. Thankfully, in America, we have not crossed the euthanasia Rubicon, at least nationally. Although it is legal in several mainly blue states, California, Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and Washington, D.C., far too many that should make us all very uncomfortable. We are starting down this slippery slope, and the voting public has been persuaded of the merits of this idea. Most disturbingly, a 2018 poll by Gallup found that a majority of Americans, with 72% in favor, support laws allowing patients to seek the assistance of a physician in ending their life. 72%. Luckily, we have countless cautionary tales from Europe and Canada, where this policy has inevitably drifted from affecting only those with crippling psychological and health problems to those who just suffer from seasonal depression. Watch.
Piano Vafian was 26 years old when he received medical assistance in dying in BC on December 30th. His family says he lived with type 1 diabetes and partial vision loss, but they say his biggest struggle was his mental health, which they believe should have made him ineligible for MAID.
He said everything the doctors needed to hear in order to approve him. Was he actually feeling that way? I strongly believe not.
Kiana was 26 years old when he was euthanized by the Canadian medical system, basically my age, again. And what did he have that convinced Canada he was a great candidate for assisted dying? Type 1 diabetes, partial blindness, and mental health issues, none of which are serious and curable conditions, as stipulated when Canada first implemented this policy. Keanu's parents were advocates for him, just like Noelia's parents were. They even insisted that his mood would probably improve if he moved to a sunnier destination other than Canada. And not to trivialize mental health, but when spring rolls around in New York City, I have a pep in my step. After a long, dark winter, sunlight is pretty amazing in that way. But again, the state cut out the family from the conversation. It's very similar, in my view, to the dubiously named gender-affirming care craze in the US, where blue states have passed gender tourism laws allowing kids to travel to those states to get a sex change surgery while the parents are totally in the dark. And if those parents protest and try to stop the kid from making that life-altering move, they could face legal consequences by trying to advocate for their own child, who is not usually at the age of consent. My last point is that, just like with so-called gender-affirming care, once you open that Pandora's box and euthanasia's Pandora's box, there's a whole new industry that wants to make money off your suffering. This gives an incentive to medical professionals who are sworn, at least in the US, to do no harm, to rush a troubled individual into ending their life or altering their God-given bodies irreversibly. And indeed, this is what Keanu's parents believe happened to him.
The family says prominent MAID advocate Dr. Ellen Wiebe signed their son's death certificate and alleges the safeguards were not fully followed.
We strongly believe that she was coaching him in order for her to check off her own boxes to approve him.
In a statement to Global News, Dr. Wiebe says each patient she has provided MAID to had a grievous and irremediable medical, not psychiatric, condition. adding each of them was capable of consent and that all track 2 assessments took at least 90 days.
Really? Lack of perfect eyesight and type 1 diabetes qualify as a grievous and irremediable medical condition. I'm regularly anemic, and a relative of mine shattered their kneecap recently and probably won't have the same agility they once had ever again. I guess our time is up. Let's just throw in the towel. And Keanu did allegedly have a psychiatric condition, which could have been treated with counseling.
An independent expert says mental health issues often accompany conditions seen in track 2 MAID cases.
Are those conditions, those mental health conditions, accompanying these other conditions? Are they adequately assessed? Are they diagnosed even before MAID is a consideration?
And yet another comparison to gender-affirming care. These experts who say that kids who are trans also happen to struggle with mental health because of the way society stigmatizes them have got it backwards. Most kids and even adults with gender dysphoria have pre-existing mental illnesses that lead them to want to transform their bodies that they're uncomfortable in. No doubt that Keanu and Noelia were also mentally not well, and they also had physical issues. The solution was not to kill them. It was the state's responsibility to help Noelia heal mentally and physically, to punish the men who attacked her, to mitigate her pain, and help get her to a place where she realized her fundamental human worth. There is nothing merciful about the way she died.